The grand ceremony hall blazed with 1,000 candles, their golden light reflecting off marble columns that stretched toward the vaulted ceiling. Arya Blackwood stood at the center of it all, her heart hammering against her ribs as she faced the ornate dais where Prince Daemon would soon appear. She wore ceremonial white, a gown of silk and lace that had taken the royal seamstresses 3 weeks to complete. The fabric whispered against her skin with every shallow breath. Around her wrists, delicate bond ribbons had been tied that morning by the high priestess, their crimson threads meant to symbolize the eternal connection between fated mates. Fated mates. The words still felt surreal. 3 months ago, Arya had been working in the palace kitchens, an omega from the lowest district of the capital. Then Prince Daemon had walked past during an inspection, and their eyes had met. The mate bond had snapped into place instantly, a golden thread that bound their souls together, undeniable and absolute. It should have been impossible. Princes didn't mate with kitchen omegas. But the bond cared nothing for status or rank. The moon goddess had chosen, and even the royal family couldn't argue with destiny. Or so Arya had believed. Now, surrounded by hundreds of nobles in their finest silks and jewels, she felt the weight of every stare. Whispers rippled through the crowd like poison. An omega? As our future queen? She probably used magic to trick him. Disgraceful. The bloodline will be ruined. Arya kept her chin high, her hands clasped before her to hide their trembling. She'd spent weeks preparing for this moment, learning royal etiquette, studying politics and history, trying desperately to prove she could be worthy of the role fate had thrust upon her. The great doors swung open with a resounding boom. Prince Daemon entered, and Arya's breath caught despite everything. He was magnificent, tall and broad-shouldered, his dark hair swept back from a face carved from aristocratic lines. His eyes, usually a warm amber, seemed cold today. Distant. He wore the ceremonial armor of the crown prince, black leather and silver steel that caught the candlelight. At his side walked Lady Selene Thornheart, daughter of the Duke of Shadowmere. She wore crimson, a bold choice for a mating ceremony that wasn't hers. Her perfect lips curved in a smile that didn't reach her calculating green eyes. Arya's wolf stirred uneasily inside her. Daemon ascended the dais steps, each footfall echoing through the suddenly silent hall. He didn't look at Arya. Not once. The high priestess, ancient and draped in ceremonial robes, raised her hands. We gather under the light of the full moon to witness the joining of fated mates. Prince Daemon Silvercrest, do you accept the bond the moon goddess has woven between you and Arya Blackwood? The question hung in the air like a blade. Daemon finally looked at her. His amber eyes were empty of warmth, empty of the affection she'd foolishly thought she'd seen growing between them over the past weeks. No. The word dropped into the silence like a stone into still water. The crowd erupted in shocked murmurs. Arya's world tilted. What? I reject this bond. Daemon's voice carried through the hall, clear and cold. I reject you, Arya Blackwood. Pain exploded in her chest, the mate bond writhing, shrieking, as it felt the rejection. Arya gasped, stumbling back a step. It felt like her heart was being torn in two. Daemon, please, her voice broke. You are unworthy. He descended the steps toward her, and she realized with horror that his hand was on the hilt of the ceremonial dagger at his belt. Too weak. Too low-born. An omega with no status, no power, no family name worth speaking. Did you truly believe you could stand beside me? That you could be queen? Tears burned in Arya's eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Not here. Not in front of all these people who'd been waiting for her to fail. The bond, she whispered. You can't just. I can. Daemon grabbed her wrist, his grip bruising. And I will. The bond ribbons tied around her wrists glowed faintly, reacting to the mate bond's distress. Daemon pulled the ceremonial dagger free and pressed the blade against the crimson threads. No. Arya tried to pull away, but his grip was iron. Watch carefully, Daemon announced to the crowd, his voice ringing with authority. Let this be a lesson. The crown does not bow to fate. We make our own choices. He sliced through the ribbons. The bonds snapped. Arya screamed. She couldn't help it. The pain was unlike anything she'd ever experienced, worse than any physical wound. It felt like her soul was being ripped apart, shredded into pieces. The golden thread that had connected her to Daemon dissolved into ash and agony. Blood welled where the ribbons had been, dark crimson against her pale skin. She collapsed to her knees, clutching her wrists as the pain overwhelmed her senses. The crowd watched in horrified fascination. Some looked away. Others leaned in closer, eager for the spectacle. Lady Selene stepped forward, her hand sliding possessively onto Daemon's arm. "Such a shame," she murmured, loud enough to carry. "Some people simply don't know their place." Laughter rippled through certain sections of the crowd, cruel, mocking sounds that cut deeper than the severed bond. Arya couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. The world spun around her in a blur of candlelight and jeering faces. She had to get out. Had to escape before she completely shattered in front of them all. She stumbled to her feet and ran. Behind her, she heard the High Priestess's shocked voice, Daemon's cold dismissal, the rising chatter of hundreds of nobles already gossiping about the Omega who'd dared to dream too high. The ceremonial gown tangled around her legs as Arya fled through the palace corridors, her vision blurred with tears she could no longer hold back. She didn't know where she was going, just away, anywhere away from that hall and the remains of her destroyed hopes. She burst through a door and found herself in the royal gardens. Night had fallen, and the full moon hung heavy in the sky, its silver light washing over manicured hedges and marble fountains. Arya's legs gave out and she collapsed onto the damp grass, finally letting the sobs tear free. The pain of the severed bond was unbearable. It felt like part of her had been amputated, leaving a gaping wound in her chest where warmth and connection had been. Her wolf howled in anguish inside her mind, confused and hurt by the rejection. "Why?" Arya whispered to the uncaring moon. "Why give me a mate only to let him destroy me?" A footstep crunched on gravel behind her. Arya's head snapped up, her body tensing. Through tear-blurred eyes, she made out a figure emerging from the shadows beneath an ancient oak tree. Tall, broad-shouldered, moving with the liquid grace of a born predator. Alpha King Lucian Silvercrest stepped into the moonlight. Arya's breath caught. She'd only ever seen the king from a distance, a commanding presence at state functions, always surrounded by guards and advisors. Up close, he was devastating. Older than his son by perhaps 25 years, but age had only refined his features into something more powerful. Silver threaded through his dark hair, and his eyes, those eyes were not amber like Daemon's, but a startling silver blue that seemed to glow with their own inner light. He wore simple black, no ceremonial armor or royal regalia. But there was no mistaking what he was. Power radiated from him like heat from a forge, the overwhelming presence of an Alpha King, the strongest werewolf in the kingdom. "Your Majesty." Arya tried to stand, to bow, but her legs wouldn't cooperate. She remained on her knees in the grass, blood still dripping from her wrists, tears streaming down her face. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, I'll leave." "Stay." One word, spoken quietly, but it carried the weight of absolute command. Arya froze. Lucian moved closer, his gaze traveling over her with an intensity that made her shiver. Not with fear, with something else she couldn't name. His eyes lingered on her bleeding wrists, and something dark flickered across his features. "My son is a fool," he said finally, his voice a deep rumble that seemed to resonate in Arya's bones. She blinked, certain she'd misheard. "Your Majesty, I..." He rejected his fated mate in front of the entire court. Severed a bond ordained by the moon goddess herself. Lucian crouched before her, bringing them eye to eye. For what? Pride? Politics? That calculating she-wolf who's been whispering poison in his ear? Arya couldn't find words. The Alpha King was defending her? Lucian reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he took her hands in his, examining the wounds. His touch was surprisingly gentle, at odds with the raw power she could feel thrumming beneath his skin. "You're wasted on my son, little Omega," he murmured, his silver blue eyes finding hers. "Perhaps you were meant for a true king." Arya's heart stuttered. "I don't understand." Something ancient and dangerous moved behind Lucian's gaze, something that made her wolf, despite her anguish, suddenly go very still and alert. "Don't you?" His thumb traced over her bleeding wrist, and Arya gasped as warmth flooded through her. The pain began to fade, the wounds closing before her eyes. "You felt it when I approached. Your wolf recognized me, even if you didn't consciously understand." Recognized, the words died in her throat as realization crashed over her. It wasn't just the bond with Daemon she was feeling. There was something else. Something deeper, older, pulling at her from the man kneeling before her. "Impossible," Arya breathed. "You can't have a second fated mate." "That's not." "I didn't say fated mate." Lucian's smile was sharp, predatory. "But there are other bonds, Arya Blackwood. Older bonds. Stronger bonds." He leaned closer, his breath warm against her ear. "Bonds that dwarf the simple connection my son just threw away." Her mind reeled. This couldn't be happening. She just had her heart shattered in front of hundreds of people, and now the Alpha King himself was kneeling before her, speaking in riddles and looking at her like she was something precious and powerful instead of a broken Omega crying in the gardens. "Why?" The question came out as barely a whisper. Lucian pulled back just enough to meet her eyes again. In the moonlight, his face was all sharp angles and shadows, beautiful and terrifying at once. "Because I've been waiting 25 years for you to appear." His hand came up to cup her cheek, and despite everything, Arya found herself leaning into the touch. "Because when I scented you in the palace 3 months ago, I knew. And because, my dear Omega, you are so much more than anyone realizes." "I'm nothing," Arya said, the words bitter. "That's what they all think. What Daemon proved tonight. Then let me prove them all wrong." Lucian's eyes blazed with intensity. "Let me show you what true power looks like. What you could become." "I don't," Arya's voice cracked. "I don't understand any of this." "You will." Lucian stood in one fluid motion, drawing her up with him. His hand remained on hers, warm and steady while everything else in her world crumbled. "But first, you need to make a choice." "What choice?" The Alpha King's smile was both promise and warning. "Whether to remain the Omega my son rejected and scorned, destined to slink back to whatever hole you crawled from." He stepped closer, and Arya's breath hitched as his power washed over her like a wave. "Or to take my hand and discover exactly why the moon goddess really brought you to this palace." Arya stared up at him, her mind spinning. This was madness. She should run. Should escape before she got tangled in whatever game the Alpha King was playing. But as she looked into those silver blue eyes, she felt something inside her respond, not her wolf, but something deeper. Something that had been sleeping her entire life, waiting for this moment. "Come with me, Arya Blackwood." Lucian extended his hand, his eyes glowing with ancient power that made the moonlight seem dim by comparison. "Let me show you what you really are." His hand hung in the air between them, an offer and a challenge. In the distance, Arya could hear music starting up again in the ceremony hall. They were continuing the celebration without her. Daemon was probably dancing with Lady Selene right now, the rejected Omega already forgotten. "You're wasted on my son." The words echoed in her mind. Arya looked at the Alpha King's extended hand. At the power radiating from him. At the promise in his eyes that spoke of secrets and revelations that would change everything. She thought of the humiliation. The pain. The blood on her wrists and the severed bond in her chest. She thought of every noble who'd sneered at her. Every servant who'd whispered that she didn't belong. Daemon's cold eyes as he destroyed her in front of the kingdom. Something fierce and hot kindled in her chest, burning away the tears. Arya placed her hand in Lucian's. His fingers closed around hers, and power surged through their connection, a lightning strike that made her gasp. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. Reality shifted, and Arya saw something flash behind her eyes: ancient forests, silver moonlight, a crown that blazed with otherworldly fire. Lucian pulled her closer, his voice dropping to a whisper that promised dark and wonderful things. "Good girl. Now, let's go show them all what happens when you reject a queen." "I'm not a queen," Arya said, but her voice was stronger now. Steadier. "Not yet." Lucian's smile was wicked. "But you will be." He led her toward the palace, and with each step, Arya felt the pain of her rejection fading, replaced by something new. Something dangerous and exhilarating. She didn't know what the Alpha King saw in her. Didn't understand what he meant by bonds older than fate or sleeping power waiting to wake. But as they walked through the moonlit gardens, Arya made a silent vow. Daemon had rejected her. The court had mocked her. They'd all made her feel like nothing. She would make them regret it. Every single one. If you are enjoying this video, do well to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Chapter 2. The Alpha King's private chambers occupied the entire west wing of the palace's highest tower. Arya had never been anywhere near this section. Servants whispered that even most nobles had never stepped foot in the king's personal domain. As Lucian led her through corridors lined with ancient tapestries and burning torches, Arya's mind raced. The pain of Daemon's rejection still throbbed in her chest, but Lucian's hand remained steady around hers, anchoring her to something solid when everything else felt like quicksand. They passed two sets of guards who snapped to attention, their eyes widening at the sight of their king escorting the rejected Omega. Arya could practically feel their shock, their questions. By morning, the entire palace would know. Good. Let them talk. Lucian opened a set of massive oak doors carved with scenes of ancient wolf hunts. Come. The chambers beyond stole Arya's breath. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the moonlit kingdom, the capital city spreading out below like a carpet of stars. Rich furs covered the stone floor. A fire crackled in a hearth large enough to stand in. Books lined the walls, more books than Arya had ever seen in one place, leather-bound volumes that looked older than the palace itself. But it was the power saturating the space that made her wolf whimper. This was an Alpha's territory in the truest sense, every inch claimed, marked, dominated by Lucian's overwhelming presence. He released her hand and moved to a sideboard, pouring amber liquid into two crystal glasses. Sit. You're shaking. Arya hadn't realized she was. She sank onto a leather chair near the fire, her ruined ceremonial gown pooling around her. The white silk was grass-stained and tear-streaked now, a mockery of what it was supposed to represent. Lucian pressed a glass into her hand. Drink. She obeyed, the liquor burning down her throat and spreading warmth through her chest. It helped clear the fog of shock that had been clouding her thoughts since Daemon's rejection. Why am I here? Arya asked, meeting Lucian's gaze. She'd been raised to never look an Alpha directly in the eyes. It was considered challenging, disrespectful. But something in her refused to lower her gaze now. She was done bowing. A smile ghosted across Lucian's lips, as if he appreciated her defiance. He settled into the chair opposite hers, the firelight playing across his features. Because my son just made the greatest mistake of his pathetic life. He doesn't want me. The words came out steadier than Arya expected. The liquor helped. So did the anger beginning to burn through her pain. He made that clear to everyone. Daemon is blind. Lucian leaned forward, his silver blue eyes intense. He sees an Omega and assumes weakness. He sees lowborn and assumes worthlessness. He's so focused on appearances and politics that he can't see what's standing right in front of him. And what's that? Power. The word hung in the air between them. Raw, untapped, ancient power that's been sleeping inside you your entire life. Arya's heart stuttered. I don't have power. I'm an Omega. We're weak? Submissive? Meant only to bear children and serve stronger wolves. Lucian's voice held an edge of contempt. That's what they teach. What they've always taught. But they're wrong, Arya. Omegas aren't weak, they're suppressed. Controlled. Because wolves like you, when you finally wake up. His eyes gleamed. You're terrifying. I don't understand. No. You wouldn't. Lucian rose and moved to one of the bookshelves, pulling down a volume bound in what looked like silver leather. You have no memories before age 7, do you? Arya froze. She'd never told anyone that. How did you? Because I've been searching for you since the day you appeared in that orphanage, a little Omega girl with no past and eyes that held too much knowledge for a child. He opened the book, revealing pages covered in elegant script and detailed illustrations. Do you know what a bloodline curse is? A curse passed down through family lines? Close enough. Lucian returned to his chair, the book open in his lap. 25 years ago, my mate, Daemon's mother, became obsessed with an ancient prophecy. It spoke of an Omega who would rise with the power of the Silver Wolf, who would either save the kingdom or burn it to ash. His jaw tightened. She convinced herself this prophesied Omega was a threat. She hunted for years, trying to find and eliminate any child who might fit the description. Ice slid down Arya's spine. What happened to her? She died. Under circumstances that were never fully explained. Lucian's eyes found hers. But not before she managed to cast one final curse, a blood magic spell designed to suppress and hide anyone with Silver Wolf bloodline traits. Silver Wolf? Arya's hand unconsciously moved to her chest, where her wolf resided. A bloodline thought extinct. The most powerful Omegas ever to exist, wolves who could command alphas, whose very presence could shake kingdoms. Lucian's gaze intensified. When I sent you 3 months ago, I knew immediately. You carry that bloodline. The curse has been keeping it dormant, but it's still there. Waiting. Arya wanted to laugh at the absurdity of it, but she couldn't. Because somewhere deep inside, something resonated with his words. Those flashes of memory she sometimes had, silver light, ancient power, a woman's voice calling her by a different name. Even if that's true, she said slowly, what does it matter now? Daemon rejected me. The bond is broken. A fated mate bond can be overridden. Lucian set the book aside and leaned forward again, his presence overwhelming. By an Alpha King's claim. The words settled between them, heavy with implication. You want to claim me? It wasn't a question. I want to give you a choice. Lucian's voice dropped, intimate and dangerous. You can leave. Return to whatever life you had before, carrying the shame of tonight's rejection. Or. His eyes blazed with silver fire. You can let me claim you. Let me break the curse suppressing your power. Let me make you my mate, my queen, and watch as everyone who mocked you tonight falls to their knees. Revenge. He was offering her revenge wrapped in power and legitimacy. Arya's wolf stirred, interested despite the pain of the severed bond. Why? Why would you do this? Because I've been searching for you for 25 years. Because you're meant for more than being my son's discarded mistake. Because when I touch you. He reached out, his fingers brushing her cheek, and Arya gasped at the surge of electricity that sparked between them. I feel something I haven't felt since my first mate died. Possibility. I don't love you. The words came out breathless. No. But you hate them. Lucian's smile was sharp. And that's enough to start. Arya's mind whirled. This was insane. She'd been rejected less than an hour ago, and now the Alpha King himself was offering to claim her, to make her queen, to unlock some supposed hidden power inside her. She should refuse. Should run from this tower and this magnetic, dangerous man and never look back. But then she remembered Daemon's cold eyes. Lady Celine's mocking smile. The laughter of the nobles as she'd fled the ceremony hall. The years of being treated as less than because of her Omega status and lack of family name. Heat kindled in her chest, not the warmth of a mate bond, but something hotter. Angrier. Yes. The word came out fierce. I want them to regret it. All of them. Lucian's smile was triumphant and wicked. Then give me your consent, Arya Blackwood. Let me claim you as mine. I consent. Her wolf howled in agreement, eager and hungry. Lucian rose in one fluid motion, pulling Arya up with him. The claiming ceremony is intense. Are you certain? In answer, Arya tilted her head, exposing the curve of her neck where a mate's mark would go. Make me your queen. Something primal flashed in Lucian's eyes. His hands came up to frame her face, gentle despite the power thrumming through him. This will hurt. The curse won't break easily. I don't care. And once it's done, there's no going back. You'll be mine, Arya. Completely. Good. She met his gaze without flinching. Claim me. Lucian's control shattered. He pulled her flush against him, one hand tangling in her hair as his mouth crashed down on hers. The kiss was claiming, possessive, nothing like the chaste pecks Daemon had given her. This was an alpha king taking what was his, and Arya responded with equal hunger, pouring all her rage and pain and need into the connection. Power exploded between them. Lucian tore his mouth away and struck, his teeth sinking into the curve of her neck. Arya cried out as pain and pleasure warred through her body. The claiming mark burned like liquid fire, spreading from the bite across her skin. Then something inside her shattered. The curse broke with an almost audible snap, and power rushed through Arya like a dam bursting. Silver light erupted from her body, so bright it turned the chamber to daylight. She felt her wolf surge forward, no longer small and submissive but massive and magnificent. The palace shook. Stone trembled. Windows rattled in their frames. Lucian held her through it, his own power rising to meet hers, twining together in a bond that made the severed connection with Daemon seem like a candle compared to a wildfire. Arya threw her head back and howled, a sound of power and fury and triumph that echoed through the entire palace. The doors burst open. Daemon stormed in with a contingent of guards, his face twisted with rage. What have you done? The guards fell back immediately, overwhelmed by the power radiating from their king and the glowing Omega in his arms. Daemon stood frozen, his amber eyes wide with shock as he took in the scene, Arya marked and claimed, silver light still dancing across her skin, standing beside his father like she belonged there. I've corrected your mistake. Lucian's voice was cold enough to freeze blood. His arm remained around Arya's waist, possessive and protective. Arya Blackwood is now my mate. Your future queen. You will address her as such. You can't, she was mine. She was never yours. Lucian's eyes blazed with contempt. You rejected her. Severed the bond. She's free to accept another claim, and she's accepted mine. Lady Selene appeared in the doorway, her green eyes widening as she took in the scene. Then, impossibly, she smiled, a calculating expression that made Arya's instinct scream danger. Well, Selene purred, stepping forward despite the guards' attempts to hold her back. Quite the upgrade, little Omega. From rejected mate to queen in less than an hour. How ambitious of you. Arya felt Lucian tense beside her, but she stepped forward on her own, meeting Selene's mocking gaze. The power still singing through her veins made her bold. Watch your tone, Lady Selene. Arya's voice came out different, stronger, layered with command that made even Daemon flinch. You're addressing your future queen. Selene's smile didn't waver, but something dangerous flickered in her eyes. Of course, Your Majesty. My apologies. She didn't sound apologetic at all. Daemon found his voice, anger overriding shock. This is insane. She's an Omega. She can't be queen. I'll challenge this before the council. Try. Lucian's voice dropped to a lethal purr. Give me an excuse to remind you exactly why I'm the Alpha King and you're merely a prince who just proved himself unworthy of ever taking the throne. The threat hung in the air, absolute and undeniable. Daemon's face went white, then red with impotent rage. He opened his mouth, closed it, then spun on his heel and stormed from the chambers. The guards scrambled after him. Celine lingered a moment longer, her gaze traveling between Arya and Lucian with an expression that was almost satisfied. As if this had gone according to some plan Arya couldn't see. "Congratulations on your claiming, your majesties." She dipped into a perfect curtsy, then glided from the room. The doors closed, leaving Arya and Lucian alone once more. The silver light finally faded from Arya's skin, but the power remained, a constant hum beneath her skin that felt both foreign and achingly familiar. She touched the mark on her neck, feeling the raised skin where Lucian's teeth had broken through. The mark pulsed with warmth and power and... Finally. Arya froze. The voice in her mind wasn't hers. Wasn't her wolf's familiar presence. It was something else. Something older and infinitely more dangerous. "You're awakening. Good. They will all pay for what they did to us. Did you hear that?" Arya whispered, her hand still on the mark. Lucian frowned. "Hear what?" But the voice was already gone, fading back into the depths of her consciousness. Leaving only questions and a chill that had nothing to do with the night air. And the unmistakable certainty that whatever power had just awakened inside her. It had been waiting a very, very long time. If you are enjoying this video, do well to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Chapter 3. 3 days as the Alpha King's claimed mate, and Arya had learned that power didn't shield you from cruelty, it just made people more creative with their insults. Again, Lady Constance, the palace etiquette instructor, snapped her fan closed with a sharp crack. A queen does not slump. Shoulders back, chin level. You may have seduced your way into the king's bed, but you'll need more than that to fool anyone into believing you belong on the throne. Arya bit back a retort and adjusted her posture. The corset they'd laced her into that morning felt like iron bands around her ribs. Her feet ached in the ridiculous heeled slippers. And the weight of the practice crown on her head made her neck throb. But she endured. Because every pointed comment, every sneered instruction, every accidentally overheard insult about opportunistic omegas and their shameless ambitions only fed the fire burning in her chest. They wanted her to break. To prove she was unworthy. She died before giving them the satisfaction. Better. Lady Constance circled her like a predator. Now, when presented to the Council of Elders, you will curtsy, just so, and wait for acknowledgement before speaking. You do not offer opinions unless directly asked. You certainly do not contradict your betters. Your betters. As if being born into nobility made someone inherently superior. What if my opinion is requested? Arya asked, keeping her voice level. Then you defer to His Majesty, as any proper mate should. Lady Constance's smile was thin and cold. A queen is a symbol, girl. A pretty ornament on the king's arm. The sooner you accept that, the easier your transition will be. Arya's wolf snarled in her mind. The silver power that had awakened during the claiming stirred, responding to her anger. For a moment, the air around her shimmered. Lady Constance stepped back, eyes widening slightly before her expression hardened into contempt. Control yourself. Such displays are unseemly. The lesson continued for another agonizing hour. Proper forms of address, the hierarchy of noble houses, which fork to use for which course, how to smile without showing teeth because, we are not savages, girl. By the time Lady Constance dismissed her, Arya's jaw ached from clenching. She fled to the library, the one place in the palace where she'd found any peace. The vast room stretched 3 stories high, filled with thousands of volumes. Here, at least, she could breathe without someone critiquing her technique. Arya ran her fingers along the spines of leather-bound books, seeking comfort in their solidity. She'd always loved reading, even in her days in the orphanage and later working in the kitchens. Books didn't judge. Didn't care about rank or bloodline. Future queen, slumming in the library? Arya turned to find Lord Marcus Ashford leaning against a bookshelf, his expression a mix of amusement and calculation. He was one of Daemon's friends, a beta from a powerful family who'd made his disdain for Arya's elevation abundantly clear. Lord Ashford. She inclined her head precisely the amount Lady Constance had drilled into her. Not too low, she outranked him now. Not too shallow, she wasn't trying to insult him. The politics of it exhausted her. I must admit, I'm impressed. Marcus pushed off the bookshelf and approached. 3 days ago you were a kitchen omega. Now you're studying to be queen. That's quite the leap. The Alpha King claimed me. I'm simply fulfilling my duty. Is that what you call it? His smile didn't reach his eyes. Most would call it opportunism. Seducing the king mere hours after his son rejected you. Rather convenient timing, wouldn't you say? Heat rose in Arya's cheeks. I didn't seduce anyone. The claim was mutual. Please. Marcus circled her slowly. Everyone knows omegas use their heat cycles to ensnare powerful alphas. It's what you're made for, after all. Temptation and manipulation. Arya's hands clenched into fists. The silver power stirred again, stronger this time. You overstep, Lord Ashford. Do I? Or am I simply saying what everyone's thinking? He leaned closer, his voice dropping. You don't belong here, Omega. Sooner or later, the king will realize his mistake. And when he does, you'll fall much farther than you climbed. Is there a problem here? Both of them turned to find Lucian standing in the library entrance. He wore simple dark clothing, but his presence filled the space, undeniable, overwhelming. His silver blue eyes were fixed on Marcus with an expression that promised violence. Marcus paled and immediately dropped into a bow. Your Majesty. I was just insulting my mate? Lucian's voice was soft. Deadly. Suggesting she used manipulation to secure her position? Perhaps implying I'm weak-minded enough to be seduced against my will? No, Your Majesty, I would never. Get out. 2 words, spoken quietly, but they cracked through the library like a whip. And spread the word among your noble friends. The next person who disrespects my queen will find themselves stripped of title and lands. Are we clear? Marcus fled without another word. Lucian moved to Arya, his hand coming up to cup her cheek. Are you all right? I'm fine. But her voice shook slightly. I can handle a few insults. You shouldn't have to. His thumb traced her cheekbone. I know this transition is difficult. The nobles are resistant to change. They hate me. Arya pulled back, wrapping her arms around herself. They think I'm a manipulative omega who trapped you. And maybe they're right to wonder. Why did you claim me, Lucian? Really? You talk about prophecies and hidden power, but what if I'm just? She gestured helplessly. What if I'm just me? A nobody from nowhere who happened to be in the right place at the right time? Lucian studied her for a long moment. Come to my study tonight. After the midnight bell. I'll show you something. Show me what? The truth. He pressed a kiss to her forehead, a gesture that felt more protective than romantic. All of it. Then he was gone, leaving Arya alone among the books with more questions than answers. Midnight found Arya slipping through shadowed corridors, grateful for her years of sneaking through the palace as a servant. She knew which floorboards creaked, which guards changed shifts when, how to move like a ghost. The study Lucian had mentioned wasn't his public office, she realized, but something deeper in the palace. She followed his scent, pine and winter storms and something uniquely him, to a section of the palace she'd never seen before. Ancient. That was the word that came to mind as she descended a spiral staircase lit by torches that burned with an eerie blue flame. The walls here were rougher, older, the stones fitted together in a style that predated the current palace structure. Voices drifted up from below. Lucian's deep rumble and, someone else? No, he was alone, she realized. Talking to himself. Arya crept closer until she could peer around the doorway. The chamber beyond was circular, carved entirely from black stone. Shelves lined the walls, crammed with scrolls and books and artifacts that hummed with power. In the center, Lucian stood before a table covered in ancient documents, his back to her. "Where are you?" he murmured, his fingers tracing over what looked like a map. "You've been hiding for 25 years. But I can feel you stirring now. Finally waking." Arya's breath caught. He was talking about her. "I know you're there, Arya." Lucian didn't turn around. "You were never good at hiding your presence, even when you tried." Caught, she stepped into the chamber. "What is this place?" "The restricted archives. Only the reigning Alpha King has access." He finally turned, and something in his expression made her wolf whimper. He looked haunted. "I've been coming here for years. Searching for answers. For you." "Why?" The question came out as barely a whisper. Lucian moved to one of the shelves and withdrew a scroll so old it looked like it might crumble at a touch. 25 years ago, my mate, Queen Morgana, found a prophecy. An ancient text that spoke of an Omega who would be born bearing the mark of the silver wolf. This Omega would rise to power and either save the kingdom, or burn it to ash. Arya's skin prickled. What happened? Morgana became obsessed. She was a powerful she-wolf, but also deeply paranoid. The idea of an Omega, someone she saw as inherently beneath her, holding the kingdom's fate drove her mad. Lucian's jaw tightened. She spent years hunting for any child who might match the prophecy. Any Omega born with unusual traits or power. She killed them? Horror threaded through Arya's voice. Not all. Some she just suppressed. Cursed. Made sure they'd never realize their potential. He met her eyes. Others disappeared. Morgana was careful. Clever. Even I didn't know the full extent of what she'd done until after her death. How did she die? That's the question, isn't it? Lucian's smile was bitter. Officially, it was a hunting accident. She fell from her horse, broke her neck. But I've always suspected. He shook his head. She died when Daemon was 7. And 3 months later, a little Omega girl appeared in an orphanage across the kingdom. No memories. No past. Just those unusual silver-touched eyes and a power she didn't even know she possessed. Arya's heart hammered. You think I'm the one from the prophecy? I don't think. I know. Lucian moved to another shelf and carefully withdrew a frame covered in cloth. Because you're not the first Omega to bear the mark of the silver wolf. There was another. 300 years ago. He pulled away the cloth. Arya staggered back, a gasp tearing from her throat. The portrait showed a woman in royal regalia, a crown of silver and moonstone, robes that shimmered like starlight. But it was her face that made Arya's blood run cold. Because she was looking at herself. Not similar. Not reminiscent. Exact. The same high cheekbones, the same full lips, the same unusual silver-touched eyes. Even the way the woman held herself, proud, fierce, unyielding, felt like looking in a mirror. Who? Arya couldn't form the words. Queen Seraphina the Silver. The most powerful Omega to ever live. Lucian's voice was soft. She rose from nothing to rule this kingdom with a strength that made alphas kneel. For 20 years, she reigned in peace and prosperity. Until what? Until her mate betrayed her. King Aldrich, threatened by her power and encouraged by jealous nobles, accused her of witchcraft. Of using dark magic to control him and the kingdom. Lucian's expression darkened. They executed her. Burned her at the stake in the palace courtyard while her mate watched. Arya felt sick. Why are you telling me this? Because as she died, Seraphina cursed them all. She swore she would return. That her power would be reborn, and when it was, every bloodline that supported her execution would answer for their treachery. Lucian set the portrait down carefully. Morgana was a direct descendant of one of those bloodlines. So is Damon. So are half the noble houses currently trying to make your life hell. The pieces clicked together with horrible clarity. They're afraid of me. Not because I'm an opportunistic Omega, but because they think I'm Queen Seraphina reborn. Yes. Lucian stepped closer. When I scented you 3 months ago, when I felt that power sleeping inside you, I knew. The Silver Queen has returned. And this time, she won't be betrayed. Aria's mind reeled. Reincarnation. Ancient curses. A queen executed by her own mate. It was insane. Except. She thought of her missing memories. The voice she'd heard after the claiming, they will all pay for what they did to us. The power that felt both new and achingly familiar. The way certain places in the palace felt like coming home even though she'd never been to them before. I don't remember, she whispered. I don't remember being her. Not yet. The curse Morgana cast suppressed your memories along with your power. But now that you've been claimed, now that the suppression is breaking. Lucian's hand found hers. The memories will return. And when they do, Arya, you need to be ready. Because 300 years of rage and betrayal don't just disappear. What if I don't want this? Arya pulled her hand away. What if I just want to be myself, not some reincarnated queen with vengeance issues? Then I'll help you fight it. We'll find another way. But his eyes said he didn't believe there was another way. But you deserve to know the truth. Why I claimed you. Why Morgana tried to destroy you. Why half the kingdom fears you even though they don't consciously remember why. Arya sank into a chair, her legs suddenly unable to support her. A reincarnated queen. A prophecy. Bloodlines cursed for ancient betrayals. Does Damon know? She asked finally. Some of it. Morgana told him stories when he was young, twisted versions that made the Silver Queen into a monster. I tried to counter it, but... Lucian's expression turned regretful. He's his mother's son in many ways. Paranoid. Suspicious of power he can't control. Is that why he rejected me? Because he sensed what I was? Possibly. Or perhaps fate knew you were never meant for him. Lucian crouched before her chair, meeting her eyes. I claimed you because I've been searching for you for 25 years. Because I believe in the prophecy, not the fear, but the hope. Because I think Queen Seraphina was betrayed not because she was evil, but because she was too powerful for small men to tolerate. And if the prophecy is wrong? Arya asked. If I'm not her? If I'm just an Omega who looks like her? Then you're still the most remarkable woman I've ever met. And I still want you as my queen. The sincerity in his voice made something in Arya's chest crack open. She wanted to believe him. Wanted to believe she could be something more than the broken Omega Damon had discarded. But doubt gnawed at her. What if she was just a pawn in some centuries-old game? What if Lucian's interest in her was purely political? Before she could voice any of it, footsteps thundered down the corridor. A guard burst into the archives, his face pale. Your Majesty. You need to come immediately. What is it? Lucian was on his feet instantly. The future Queen's chambers. Something's happened. Ice flooded Arya's veins. They ran through the palace, following the guard to her newly assigned suite. The doors stood open, and a crowd of servants and guards clustered in the hallway, their faces white with shock. Lucian pushed through them, Arya at his heels. The sight that greeted them stopped her heart. A servant, young, barely 20, one of the girls assigned to help Arya dress, lay sprawled in the center of the room. Dead. Her throat torn open, blood pooling beneath her body. But it was the floor that made Arya's breath strangle in her lungs. Carved into the wooden floorboards in letters 2 feet high, etched so deep the wood was splintered. False queens burn. Arya stared at the message, at the dead girl who'd been kind to her, at the blood and violence that had invaded her sanctuary. And in her mind, that ancient voice whispered again, no longer questioning, but certain and cold as winter. They've started the game. Good. Let's finish what they began 300 years ago. If you are enjoying this video, do well to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Chapter 4. Fear was a living thing in the palace now, coiling through corridors like smoke. After the servant's murder, Lucian had assigned Arya 6 elite guards, wolves from his personal shadow guard who'd sworn blood oaths to protect the crown. They flanked her constantly, silent and watchful, their presence both comforting and suffocating. Arya couldn't breathe without them noting it. Couldn't move without their shadows following. At night, they stood outside her chambers she no longer felt safe sleeping in, not with that carved message still burned into her mind. False queens burn. 3 days since the murder, and they were no closer to finding the killer. The servant girl, Mira, had been alone in Arya's rooms preparing the evening's wardrobe. No one had seen anyone enter or leave. The guards stationed at the corridor's end swore no one had passed them. Which meant either the guards were lying, or the killer could move through the palace unseen. Neither option was comforting. You need to eat. Lucian's voice drew Arya from her dark thoughts. They sat in his private dining room, another concession to security. No more public meals where poison could be slipped into her cup. Arya stared at the elaborate breakfast spread before her. Her stomach turned. I'm not hungry. You've barely eaten in 3 days. His hand covered hers on the table. Arya, I know you're scared. I'm not scared. The lie tasted bitter. I'm angry. Someone murdered an innocent girl and used her blood to threaten me, and we're just waiting. Hiding. Letting whoever did this think they've won. We're being cautious. There's a difference. Is there? Arya pulled her hand away, frustration boiling over. How long until they strike again? How many more people have to die while I cower behind guards and locked doors? Lucian's jaw tightened. This isn't your fault. Isn't it? That message was meant for me. Mira died because of me. Mira died because someone in this palace is playing a dangerous game. His eyes flashed with barely contained rage. And when I find them, they'll beg for death before I'm done. The viciousness in his voice should have frightened her. Instead, it sparked something dark and satisfied in her chest. That ancient voice that had been whispering in her mind stirred, approving. Yes. Make them suffer. Make them all pay. A knock at the door interrupted them. One of the guards entered and bowed. Your Majesty, the council requests your presence. There's been a development. Lucian cursed under his breath. What kind of development? Several noble houses have formally petitioned to delay the coronation. They cite security concerns and... The guard's eyes flicked to Arya. Questions about the future queen's suitability. Arya's hands clenched into fists beneath the table. Of course. They were using the murder to undermine her claim to the throne. Tell the council I'll address them shortly. Lucian dismissed the guard and turned to Arya. You don't have to attend. I can handle. No. Arya stood, her chair scraping against stone. If I hide now, they win. I'm going. Pride flickered in Lucian's expression. Then we face them together. The throne room was packed with nobles, all dressed in their finest and wearing expressions ranging from concern to barely disguised hostility. Arya felt their stares like physical weights as she entered on Lucian's arm, her 6 guards forming a protective circle around them. She'd chosen her outfit carefully this morning, a gown of deep crimson that made her look older, more regal. Her hair was swept up, showing the claiming mark on her neck. A small crown of silver, not the queen's crown, not yet, but enough to mark her status, rested on her head. She looked every inch a queen. Even if she felt like a fraud. Lucian ascended the dais and settled onto his throne. Arya took her place in the smaller throne beside him, the queen's seat that had sat empty for 25 years. The symbolism wasn't lost on anyone in the room. Let's make this quick, Lucian said, his voice carrying absolute authority. I understand there are concerns about the coronation timeline. Lord Blackthorn, one of the oldest and most conservative nobles, stepped forward. Your Majesty, in light of recent incidents, several houses believe it would be prudent to delay formalizing the succession. Perhaps allow time for a proper investigation into the future queen's background and my mate's background has been investigated thoroughly. Lucian's tone could have cut glass. Is there something specific you're questioning, Blackthorn? The Lord shifted uncomfortably. The girl appeared from nowhere, 7 years old with no family, no history. And now a servant dies in her chambers with a threatening message. Some might see a pattern. Are you suggesting my mate murdered her own servant? The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. I'm suggesting we don't know enough about her to. Enough. The voice came from the side entrance. Lady Selene glided into the throne room, looking stunning in emerald silk that matched her calculating eyes. Damon followed a step behind, his expression thunderous. Arya's wolf bristled. She hadn't seen Damon since the night Lucian claimed her, and the sight of him now, standing beside Selene like they were already a mated pair, sent a spike of something through her chest. Not jealousy, exactly. More like vindication. Selene curtsied perfectly before the thrones, but her smile was sharp. Forgive the interruption, Your Majesty, but I believe I can address Lord Blackthorn's concerns. This isn't your concern, Lady Selene. Lucian's voice held warning. Isn't it? The stability of the kingdom affects us all. She turned to face the assembled nobles, her voice carrying clearly. We all know the circumstances of the future queen's elevation. Rejected by Prince Daemon mere hours before being claimed by the king. Some might call it fate. Others. Her pause was calculated. Might see opportunism. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Arya felt Lucian tense beside her, preparing to shut Selene down, but something in Arya snapped. She stood. The room fell silent. You're right, Lady Selene. Arya descended the dais steps, moving toward the she-wolf with deliberate grace. Her guards moved with her, but she waved them back. Let's talk about opportunism. About nobles who see tragedy as a chance to advance their own agendas. About she-wolves who prey on princes too blind to see manipulation when it's whispering in their ear. Selene's smile never wavered, but her eyes hardened. Careful, Omega. You may wear a crown, but you're still. Still what? Lowborn? Powerless? Unworthy? Arya stopped directly in front of her, and satisfaction flared when Selene had to tilt her head back slightly to meet her eyes. You're terrified of me. All of you are. And you don't even know why. Terrified? Of you? Selene laughed, the sound tinkling and cruel. You're delusional. She turned, as if to address the crowd again, and stumbled. The wine glass she'd been holding splashed across Arya's gown, deep red liquid soaking into the crimson fabric. Oh. Selene pressed a hand to her mouth in mock horror. How clumsy of me. I'm so sorry, Your Highness. But her eyes glittered with malice. And Arya smelled it, the acrid, bitter scent hidden beneath the wine's sweetness. Wolfsbane. The poison acted fast on werewolves, burning through their system and weakening them to the point of collapse. Selene had just doused her in it, and from the gasps around the room, everyone knew it. Arya felt the wolfsbane touch her skin, seeping through the fabric. Felt it try to invade her bloodstream, to poison and weaken. And felt something else rise up to meet it. Power exploded from Arya in a wave of silver light. The wolfsbane evaporated instantly, burned away before it could do any harm. But the power didn't stop there, it formed a shimmering shield around her body, beautiful and terrifying, casting silver shadows across the throne room. Selene stumbled back with a cry of alarm. Several nobles shouted. Daemon moved forward as if to intervene, then froze when he saw Arya's eyes. They were glowing pure silver. You tried to poison me. Arya's voice came out layered with power, echoing strangely. In front of the entire court. In front of your king. I didn't, it was an accident. Celine's composure cracked for the first time. Liar. The silver shield pulsed, expanding. Arya took a step forward and Celine actually cowered. Did you kill Mira too? Was that you? No. I swear, I would never. Enough. Lucian's command cracked through the room like thunder. He was beside Arya in an instant, his hand on her arm. Arya. Stand down. The power was intoxicating. Arya could feel it singing in her veins, begging to be unleashed. She could hurt Celine. Could make her pay for the poison, for the manipulation, for everything. Do it, that ancient voice whispered. Make her burn. Arya. Lucian's voice softened, meant only for her. Come back to me. With enormous effort, Arya pulled the power back. The silver shield dissipated, and her eyes faded to their normal color. But everyone had seen. Everyone knew now that she wasn't just some weak Omega who'd seduced her way to power. She was something else entirely. Lucian addressed the room, his voice cold and absolute. This gathering is over. Lady Celine, you're confined to your quarters pending investigation. If anyone has further concerns about my mate's suitability, you can address them directly to me. Privately. Are we clear? No one argued. As the nobles filed out, casting fearful glances at Arya, Lucian pulled her close. We're leaving. Now. The Forbidden Forest lived up to its name. Dark and ancient, the trees grew so thick that sunlight barely penetrated. This was wild land, unclaimed by the kingdom, untouched by civilization. Dangerous. Perfect for what they needed. Lucian led Arya deep into the forest, far enough that even her enhanced hearing couldn't pick up sounds of the palace. Her guards followed at a distance, giving them space but staying alert. You need to learn to control it. Lucian finally spoke, his voice tight. That power you unleashed, if you'd lost control, you could have killed everyone in that room. Maybe they deserved it. The words came out harsher than Arya intended. Maybe. He turned to face her. But you're not a murderer, Arya. Don't let that voice in your head convince you otherwise. How did you? I've been listening to my dead mate's voice for 25 years. I know what manipulation sounds like. His expression softened. Show me what you can do. We need to understand your limits before. A whistle cut through the air. Lucian shoved Arya aside as something silver flashed past, an arrow that would have pierced her throat. It embedded in a tree with a thunk, the shaft vibrating. Ambush, one of the guards shouted. More arrows rained down from the trees. The guards formed a defensive circle, but these weren't ordinary arrows. They glowed with runes, designed to pierce werewolf hide and deliver poison directly to the bloodstream. Royal assassination weapons. A figure dropped from the canopy, masked and dressed in black, wielding twin blades that hummed with the same runic power. They moved like death itself, faster than should be possible. Lucian met them head-on, his claws extending as he partially shifted. The clash of steel on claw rang through the forest. Another masked figure appeared behind Arya. She reacted on instinct, the silver power surging up without conscious thought. When the assassin's blade descended toward her heart, it met a shield of pure energy that shattered the weapon. Arya struck back, raw magic pouring from her hands. It caught the assassin in the chest and sent them flying backward into a tree with bone-crushing force. More figures emerged from the shadows. Too many. They were surrounded. Protect the queen, one of her guards shouted, moving to intercept an assassin. But Arya didn't need protection. That ancient power was fully awake now, roaring through her veins like wildfire. She didn't think, just acted on instinct that felt 300 years old. Silver light exploded from her in waves, catching two assassins mid-leap. They screamed as the magic burned through them, their bodies dissolving to ash before they hit the ground. Arya stared at her hands in horror. She just killed them. Easily. Without even meaning to. Lucian finished his opponent and rushed to her side. Are you hurt? I killed them. Her voice shook. I didn't even, it just happened. They were trying to kill you. You defended yourself. He gripped her shoulders. Arya, look at me. You did what you had to do. One assassin remained alive, wounded and pinned beneath a fallen guard. Lucian hauled them up, ripping the mask away. Arya's blood ran cold. Chancellor Aldrich. Lucian's senior advisor. A man who'd served the crown for 30 years, who'd been at the king's side through countless crises. You? Lucian's voice was barely human, more wolf than man. You betrayed me? Blood bubbled from Aldrich's lips. The wounds were fatal, he had minutes at best. Had to, she promised power. Who? Lucian shook him. Who sent you? Aldrich's eyes found Arya, and despite his pain, he smiled. A terrible, knowing smile. The Queen Killer sends her regards. His breath rattled. She's already inside the palace, waiting. Lucian went absolutely still. That's impossible. Morgana is dead. Is she? Aldrich's laugh turned into a cough that sprayed blood. You never found her body, never confirmed. She's been waiting, 25 years, waiting for the Silver Queen to return. His eyes glazed over. Dead. Arya watched Lucian's face drain of color, the first time she'd seen genuine fear in his expression. Lucian? What does he mean? Your maid is dead. You said. I buried an empty coffin. His voice came out hollow. We never found her body after the hunting accident. I assumed. I thought. He looked at Arya, and the terror in his eyes made her wolf whimper. The Queen Killer. That's what the legends called her. Morgana hunted and killed anyone she thought might be the prophesied Silver Queen. If she survived somehow, if she's been hiding all these years. She's been waiting for me. Arya finished the thought, ice sliding down her spine. She's inside the palace. Right now. Around them, the forbidden forest seemed to grow darker. More oppressive. As if something ancient and malevolent had just awakened. And somewhere in the palace they'd just fled from, a dead queen walked among the living. If you are enjoying this video, do well to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Chapter 5. They rode back to the palace in silence, Aldrich's corpse wrapped and slung across one of the horses. The remaining guards flanked them, weapons drawn, eyes scanning the forest shadows for more threats. Arya couldn't stop shaking. She'd killed 2 people today. Watched them dissolve into ash beneath her power. The silver magic still hummed beneath her skin, eager and hungry, whispering that she could do so much more. Good, that ancient voice purred. You're remembering. Remembering what it feels like to be powerful. To be feared. Stop it, Arya whispered. Lucian's head snapped toward her. What? The voice. It's getting louder. More insistent. She met his eyes. It wants me to hurt people. To make them pay for things I don't even remember. His jaw tightened. We need to talk. Privately. No guards, no advisors. Just us. When they reached the palace, Lucian dismissed everyone, even the shadow guard, despite their protests. He led Arya through a maze of corridors to a tower she'd never seen before, one that seemed separate from the main palace structure. What is this place? Arya asked as they climbed a narrow spiral staircase. The Queen's Memorial Tower. I built it after Morgana's death. Or what I thought was her death. His voice was hollow. No one comes here. Not even Daemon. The tower room at the top was circular, with windows overlooking the kingdom. But it was the contents that made Arya's breath catch. Paintings covered every wall, all of the same woman. Beautiful, with raven black hair and eyes like chips of emerald ice. In some paintings she smiled. In others, her expression was cold. Calculating. Queen Morgana. Tell me everything, Arya said. No more half-truths. If she's alive, if she's been planning this for 25 years, I need to know what we're facing. Lucian moved to the window, his back to her. When he spoke, his voice was heavy with old pain and older guilt. Morgana wasn't just obsessed with the prophecy. She was a dark witch. Practiced forbidden magic that had been outlawed for centuries, blood rituals, necromancy, soul binding. I didn't know at first. She hid it well. He turned, and the anguish in his eyes made Arya's chest ache. By the time I discovered the truth, we'd been mated for 5 years. Damon was 3 years old. What did you do? I confronted her. Demanded she stop. She refused. His hands clenched into fists. She told me about the prophecy, about her plan to hunt down every Omega child who might be the Silver Queen reborn. She said it was necessary. That the prophecy was too dangerous to ignore. You could have stopped her. You're the Alpha King. I tried. The words came out broken. But she was cunning. Every child who disappeared, every Omega who was suppressed, she made it look like accidents. Natural deaths. By the time I had proof of what she was doing, she had followers. Nobles who believed in her crusade. Guards who were loyal to her instead of me. Arya felt sick. How many children? I don't know. Dozens, maybe. All over the kingdom. Lucian's voice cracked. I failed them. Failed to stop her before she could do irreparable damage. The hunting accident. That wasn't an accident, was it? I don't know what it was. He turned back to the window. We were deep in the Blackwood forest. Morgana's horse reared, she fell, and when I reached her, she was already dead. Neck broken. But there was something wrong about it. The angle of the break, the lack of blood. It felt staged. But you buried her anyway. I buried an empty coffin. Lucian's reflection in the glass looked haunted. We never found her body. I sent search parties for weeks, but it was like she'd vanished. Eventually, I had to accept she was gone, taken by animals, lost in the forest, something. I held a funeral, put up monuments, and tried to move on. He laughed bitterly. Tried to convince myself I was finally free of her. And Damon? I told him his mother died in an accident. A hero, mourned by the kingdom. I thought I was protecting him from the truth. Lucian's shoulders sagged. Instead, I think I protected Morgana. Let her become a martyr in his eyes instead of the monster she really was. Arya moved to stand beside him, looking out over the kingdom bathed in afternoon light. If she survived, where has she been all these years? Why wait so long? Because she was waiting for you. Lucian's eyes found hers. The prophecy said the Silver Queen would return when the kingdom was most vulnerable. When old bloodlines had grown complacent and new threats emerged. Morgana was patient. She could afford to wait decades if it meant catching you when you were weak, newly awakened, before you remembered who and what you really are. Before Arya could respond, pain lanced through her skull. She gasped, stumbling back as images flooded her mind. Fire. Everywhere fire. A building burning, walls collapsing. A little girl running through smoke, coughing, terrified. Seraphina. Come back, you foolish child. A woman's voice, cruel and mocking. Following. Always following. You can't hide from me forever. I'll find you. I'll kill you like I killed your mother. The girl, herself, Arya realized, dove behind rubble. Small hands pressed to her mouth to muffle her sobs. She was maybe 6 years old. Alone. Hunted. Footsteps approached. Black boots. A woman's laugh that made ice crawl down her spine. There you are. Arya. Lucian's hands gripped her shoulders, pulling her back to the present. What did you see? A memory. But not from this life. Her voice shook. I was Serafina. I was 6 years old and someone was hunting me. Trying to kill me. She met his eyes. It was Morgana. I remember her voice. Lucian's face went pale. That's impossible. Morgana would have been in her 20s then. You're only 25 now. Time works differently for witches who practice dark magic. The knowledge came from somewhere deep, something Serafina knew. She could have extended her life, reversed her aging. If she was powerful enough. Then she's been hunting you for your entire life. Both lives. Lucian pulled her close, his heart hammering against her ear. We need to find her. End this before. A scream echoed through the palace. Then another. Bells began to ring, the alarm for intruders. They ran. The catacombs beneath the palace were ancient, predating the current structure by centuries. This was where the royal dead rested, in ornate tombs carved from marble and granite. Arya had never been down here. Servants whispered it was haunted, that the ghosts of dead queens walked the corridors at night. Now, following Lucian through the torchlit passages with a contingent of guards, Arya thought those superstitions might not be entirely wrong. The air down here felt wrong. Thick and oppressive, heavy with old magic that made her skin crawl. Her wolf paced anxiously in her mind, whining. Where are we going? Arya asked as they descended deeper. Morgana's tomb. Lucian's expression was grim. If she's really alive, if she's been inside the palace this whole time, her tomb is the place to start. They reached a section of the catacombs that looked newer than the rest. The stone was polished black granite, and torches burned with that same eerie blue flame Arya had seen in the restricted archives. Morgana's tomb stood at the end of the corridor, an elaborate structure carved with roses and thorns. Her name was etched in silver letters, Queen Morgana Silvercrest, beloved mate and mother. The lies we tell the dead, Arya thought. Lucian approached the tomb slowly, as if expecting it to attack. He placed his hands on the stone lid and pushed. It moved easily. Too easily. The tomb was empty. Not just empty, it had never been used. No body, no bones, not even dust. Just clean stone and, in the center, something that made Arya's blood run cold. Fresh blood. Still wet. Spelling out a message. You took my throne. I'm taking everything you love. She was never dead, Arya whispered. All these years, she's been alive. Planning. Lucian stared at the message, his face a mask of controlled fury. Everyone out. Now. Get back to The torches went out. Darkness swallowed them, complete and absolute. Arya heard the guards shouting, drawing weapons, but the sound seemed muffled. Distant. Then the screaming started. Shapes moved in the darkness, things that weren't quite solid, weren't quite real. Shadow creatures, born of dark magic and nightmares. They fell on the guards with claws and teeth that tore through armor like paper. Arya felt Lucian's hand find hers. Stay close to me. But the shadows were everywhere, surrounding them, cutting them off from the guards and the exit. One lunged at Arya, its claws aimed at her throat. Power exploded from her without thought. Silver light blazed through the catacombs, driving back the darkness. But this time, something else happened. Arya felt her body changing, not a full shift, but something in between. Silver fur rippled across her arms. Her eyes blazed with lunar light. Her fingers extended into claws that glowed with the same silver energy. She was partially transformed into something that had never existed before, a hybrid form between human and wolf, powered by ancient magic. The shadow creatures shrieked and recoiled, but Arya didn't give them the chance to retreat. She moved with speed that shocked her, tearing through them with claws that burned with purifying light. Where she struck, the creatures dissolved into smoke. More came. She destroyed them all. The power was intoxicating. She felt invincible, unstoppable, like she could take on an army and win. This was what she'd been in her past life. This was Queen Seraphina at full power. And it was terrifying. The last shadow creature fell, and Arya stood in the center of the tomb chamber, breathing hard, her body still half transformed and glowing with silver light. Lucian stared at her with a mixture of awe and something else. Fear? No, respect. Maybe even a touch of desire. That was lunar magic, he said quietly. A power that's been extinct for 300 years. You just wielded it like breathing. Arya looked at her clawed hands, watching silver energy dance across them. I didn't think. It just happened. Like muscle memory. Because it is memory. Seraphina's memory, waking up inside you. Lucian moved closer carefully, as if approaching a wild animal. Arya, you need to come back now. Pull the power back before. Slow clapping echoed through the catacombs. Daemon emerged from the shadows, and Arya's heart sank at the expression on his face. Cold. Calculating. Nothing like the prince she'd thought she'd known. Impressive display, Daemon said, his voice dripping with false admiration. Mother said you'd be powerful when you finally awakened. I have to admit, I underestimated just how powerful. Daemon. Lucian's voice was hard as granite. What are you doing here? Finishing what Mother started. Daemon's hand moved to his belt, drawing a blade that gleamed with dark runes. Did you really think I didn't know? That I didn't understand what she was trying to do? She was a murderer. A monster who killed innocent children. She was protecting the kingdom. Daemon's composure cracked, showing the zealot beneath. The prophecy said the Silver Queen would either save us or destroy us. Mother chose to eliminate the threat before it could manifest. It was the smart choice. The brave choice. It was the choice of a coward, Arya said, her voice still layered with power. She murdered children because she was afraid of an Omega being stronger than her. Daemon's eyes narrowed. You're an abomination. A mistake that should have been corrected 25 years ago. But Mother was thorough. She knew you'd return. She's been preparing for this moment your entire life. Where is she? Lucian demanded. Closer than you think. Daemon smiled, and it was his mother's smile, cruel and cold. She's been inside the palace for weeks. Watching. Waiting. Laughing at how blind you've been. He moved faster than should be possible, the runed blade flashing toward Lucian. Arya screamed a warning, but it was too late. The blade pierced Lucian's side, sliding between ribs with practiced precision. Lucian gasped, stumbling back. The blade remained embedded, dark runes glowing as poison spread from the wound. That's Moon's Bane, Daemon said calmly. Designed specifically to kill an Alpha King. Slow, agonizing, and absolutely fatal. No cure exists. Arya caught Lucian as he collapsed, his blood hot and slick on her hands. The partial transformation faded as panic overrode power. Lucian. No, stay with me. Arya. His voice was already weakening. Run. How touching. Daemon circled them like a predator. Don't worry, Seraphina. He won't die immediately. You'll have hours to watch him suffer. To watch the poison eat away at him from the inside. Mother thought that was a nice touch, making you watch everyone you care about die, just like they made you watch in your previous life. Arya looked up at Daemon through tears of rage. Silver light began to build around her again, brighter than before. I'm going to kill you. No, you won't. Daemon's smile widened. Because Mother's been very clear about what happens if you hurt me. The poison in Father's veins? There's a trigger spell. If I die, it accelerates. He'll be dead in minutes instead of hours. He crouched down to her level, his amber eyes gleaming with malicious satisfaction. So you can try to save him, though you won't succeed, or you can try to kill me and guarantee his death. Either way, Mother wins. He stood and backed toward the shadows. Mother always said you'd return. And when you did, the real game would begin. Welcome back, Silver Queen. Let's see if you're as strong as the legends claim. Then he was gone, dissolved into darkness like he'd never been there. Arya held Lucian as his breathing grew labored, his skin going pale. The wound in his side pulsed with dark energy, the poison spreading through his veins like black lightning. I won't let you die, she whispered fiercely. I won't. But even as she said it, she felt the truth. Without knowing who Morgana was working with, without understanding the full extent of the dark magic at play, she was helpless. For all her power, for all her awakening abilities, she couldn't save the man who'd given her a second chance. And somewhere in the palace above, Morgana was laughing. If you are enjoying this video, do well to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Chapter 6. Arya didn't think. She laid Lucian gently on the cold stone floor of the catacombs and surged to her feet, silver light blazing around her like a second skin. Daemon. Her voice echoed through the darkness, layered with power that made the very walls tremble. Face me, you coward. Daemon's laughter drifted from the shadows, disembodied and mocking. So eager to condemn your mate to death? I told you, I die, he dies faster. Are you really willing to make that trade? Arya's hands clenched into fists, claws extending. Every instinct screamed at her to hunt him down, to tear him apart for what he'd done. But Lucian's labored breathing behind her anchored her to reality. Daemon was right. She couldn't risk it. This isn't over, she snarled into the darkness. No, Daemon agreed, his voice fading as he retreated deeper into the catacombs. It's only just beginning. Then he was gone, and Arya was left with a dying king and the taste of helpless rage in her mouth. She dropped to her knees beside Lucian. His face had gone gray, veins of black spreading from the wound in his side like poisoned roots. The moon's bane was working fast, eating away at his legendary strength. Arya. His hand found hers, grip weak. Leave me. Find help. I'm not leaving you. She pressed her hands to the wound, trying to channel healing energy through their bond. Silver light flowed from her palms, but the moment it touched the poison, it recoiled. The dark magic was too strong, too ancient. There has to be a way. There has to. Guards, she screamed. Guards. Footsteps thundered through the catacombs. The surviving guards appeared, their faces pale with shock at the carnage around them, the dissolved shadow creatures, the glowing Omega Queen, their king bleeding out on the stone floor. Get him to the healing chambers, Arya commanded. Now. They moved instantly, two guards carefully lifting Lucian while the others formed a protective escort. Arya ran alongside them, her hand never leaving Lucian's, feeling his life force ebbing through their bond with every passing second. The healing chambers were in chaos. Healers rushed forward when they saw the king, shouting orders, preparing poultices and potions. But when they examined the wound, when they smelled the poison, their faces fell. Moon's Bane, the head healer, an ancient woman named Miriam, whispered. Her hands hovered over the wound, glowing with diagnostic magic. Combined with blood curse runes. This isn't just poison, Your Majesty. This is a death sentence. There must be something you can do. Arya's voice cracked. Miriam met her eyes with deep sorrow. Moon's Bane has no antidote. It's designed specifically to kill Alpha Kings, breaks down the very source of their power. Combined with the curse runes. She shook her head. Only the one who cast the spell can reverse it. Without that, he has maybe 12 hours. Possibly less. 12 hours. Half a day to find Morgana, force her to reverse the spell, and save Lucian's life. It wasn't enough time. It would never be enough time. Your Majesty. Miriam's voice softened. There are preparations we should discuss. The succession, the funeral rites. He's not dead yet. Arya's words came out hard as stone. And he won't die. I won't allow it. She turned to find Lucian watching her, his silver blue eyes still sharp despite the poison ravaging his body. He beckoned her closer, and she bent low so he could whisper. The throne can't be empty. Too vulnerable. Each word cost him. You must take it. Acting queen. Until you recover, Arya finished firmly. Not until I find a replacement. His lips twitched in something that might have been a smile. Stubborn. I learned from the best. She squeezed his hand. I'm going to save you. Whatever it takes. Arya. His grip tightened with desperate strength. The council, they'll never accept. Then I'll make them accept. She pressed a kiss to his forehead, letting her power flow through the connection, not to heal, but to comfort. To remind him she was there. Rest. Save your strength. I'll handle everything else. She straightened and turned to face the healers. Keep him alive. I don't care what it takes, magical, medicinal, divine intervention. He doesn't die. Understood? They bowed their agreement. Arya strode from the healing chambers with purpose burning in her chest, guards scrambling to keep pace. She could feel the silver power humming beneath her skin, eager to be unleashed. Good. She was going to need every ounce of it. The royal council convened within the hour, summoned by emergency decree. They gathered in the council chamber, 12 of the oldest, most powerful nobles in the kingdom, all looking varying degrees of skeptical and hostile when Arya entered. She wore the same blood-stained gown from the catacombs. Wore Lucian's blood like war paint. Let them see what their precious Prince Daemon had done. Lord Blackthorn spoke first, his voice dripping with false concern. We came as quickly as we could, my lady. The news about His Majesty is distressing. But surely you understand, in times of crisis, the council must. I'm taking the throne. Arya's voice cut through his platitudes like a blade. As acting queen, until the Alpha King recovers. Silence. Then uproar. Absolutely not. An Omega cannot rule. This is unprecedented. Silence. Arya's command cracked through the chamber, and with it came a pulse of silver power that made every noble flinch. The air itself seemed to bend around her, responding to her will. Let me be very clear about the situation. The Alpha King has been poisoned by his own son in an act of treason. Prince Daemon is working with enemies of the crown, possibly including Queen Morgana herself, who may not be as dead as we believed. More shocked murmurs. Lady Helena, one of the few female council members, leaned forward. You're saying the Queen Killer is alive? I'm saying there are traitors inside this palace. Inside this very council, possibly. Arya's gaze swept over them, and she felt grim satisfaction when several looked away. His Majesty has named me acting queen. Unless one of you wishes to challenge that decree? Lord Blackthorn stood, his face red with indignation. The law is clear. In the absence of the king, the crown prince assumes. The crown prince is guilty of high treason and attempted regicide. Arya stepped forward, and Blackthorn actually retreated a step. He's forfeit all claims to the throne. Or would you prefer I bring him before this council in chains so he can explain personally why he drove a poisoned blade into his father's heart? This is insane, another lord sputtered. An Omega has never ruled this kingdom. Never. You have no training, no experience, no right. The silver power exploded from Arya in a wave that sent several council members stumbling. Her eyes blazed with lunar light, and when she spoke, her voice carried the weight of 300 years of authority. I am Queen Seraphina reborn. I ruled this kingdom once with strength that made alphas kneel. I held the throne for 20 years of peace and prosperity until small, frightened men destroyed me because they feared my power. She let the transformation begin, silver fur rippling across her arms, claws extending. Do not make their mistake. I am done being underestimated. Done being dismissed. I am your queen now, and you will bow. The command in her voice was absolute. Ancient. Undeniable. One by one, the council members dropped to their knees. Even Lord Blackthorn, his face twisted with fury and fear, bent his knee to the Omega Queen. Good. Arya pulled the power back, the partial transformation receding. Now, here's what's going to happen. Prince Daemon is to be arrested on sight, alive, if possible. I want every guard in this palace searching for him. I want his rooms searched, his correspondence examined, his movements over the past months documented. Someone has been helping him, and I will find out who. Your Majesty, Lady Helena spoke carefully. If Queen Morgana is truly alive, if she's been inside the palace, we may all be in danger. Which is why I'm declaring martial law. No one enters or leaves the palace without my express permission. All gatherings of more than 3 people require approval. And anyone found conspiring with Daemon or Morgana will be executed for treason. Arya's gaze hardened. This kingdom has been infiltrated by an enemy who's had 25 years to plan her revenge. We end this now, or we all burn. Are there any questions? There were none. 2 hours later, Arya stood in Daemon's chambers watching guards tear the place apart. They found hidden compartments behind the walls, concealed spaces beneath floorboards, a whole network of secrets the prince had been keeping. Letters. Dozens of them, written in elegant script on parchment that smelled of roses and rot. My darling son. Soon, the time will be right. The false queen stirs. When she awakens fully, we strike. Arya's hands shook as she read them. Letters from Morgana, spanning years. Detailed plans for taking back the throne, for destroying Lucian, for eliminating Arya before her power could fully manifest. Your Majesty. One of the guards approached nervously. We found something else. In the prince's private study. The study was accessed through a hidden door, a small room crammed with books on dark magic, blood rituals, and forbidden practices. On the desk lay journals filled with Daemon's handwriting, observations, experiments, preparations. And at the bottom of a locked drawer, wrapped in black silk, a letter that made Arya's blood run cold. It was an official document, sealed by a blood witch's mark. A DNA confirmation performed by dark magic, impossible to fake. This hereby confirms that Prince Daemon Silvercrest is not the biological offspring of Alpha King Lucian Silvercrest. Paternity is confirmed as Lord Malachi Nightshade, deceased. Arya stared at the words until they blurred. Daemon wasn't Lucian's son. He was the child of Morgana's secret lover, a dark sorcerer who'd been executed 20 years ago for practicing forbidden magic and attempting to overthrow the crown. Everything clicked into place. Why Daemon had always been so different from his father. Why his eyes were amber instead of silver blue. Why he'd been so susceptible to Morgana's manipulation. He wasn't a Silvercrest at all. He was Nightshade's spawn, born of dark magic and darker ambitions. Seal this room, Arya commanded. No one enters without my direct order. As she turned to leave, a figure stepped from the shadows near the door. Arya's power surged instantly, ready to strike, then froze when she recognized the face. Lady Selene raised her hands in a gesture of peace. Please. I'm not your enemy. Really? Because you tried to poison me with wolfsbane just days ago. A test. Selene's expression was serious, all traces of her usual calculating smirk gone. I needed to see if you were truly awakening. If you could defend yourself against threats. What are you talking about? Selene glanced at the guards still searching Daemon's chambers. Not here. Your private study. Alone. There are things you need to know, and I can't risk being overheard. Every instinct screamed danger. But something in Selene's eyes, fear? Desperation, made Arya nod. They moved through the palace in silence, Selene walking 3 steps behind like a proper attendant. In Arya's study, the Queen's study now, Selene waited until the door was locked and warded before speaking. My name isn't Selene Thornheart. It's Selene Moonwhisper. She pulled something from beneath her dress, a pendant that glowed with soft silver light. I'm an agent of the Moon Council. We're the organization founded after Queen Seraphina's execution to prevent such atrocities from happening again. We monitor powerful bloodlines, track dark magic, and protect those the prophecies mark as significant. Arya sank into a chair, her mind reeling. You've been spying on me. Protecting you. We knew Morgana was obsessed with the prophecy. When you appeared in that orphanage with no memories, we flagged you as a person of interest. I was inserted into noble society 5 years ago with one mission: watch for signs of Morgana's return and protect the Silver Queen if she awakened. You have a strange way of showing protection. You challenged me publicly. Tried to weaken me with Wolfsbane. Because I needed to see if you were ready. Celine leaned forward urgently. Morgana has been planning this for 25 years. She has followers throughout the kingdom, agents in positions of power. The only way to defeat her is if you're strong enough, aware enough, in control enough of your power. Testing you wasn't cruelty, it was necessity. Why should I trust you? Because I can help you find Morgana's stronghold. Because I know who her other conspirators are. And because... Celine's expression turned grim. The Moon Council has been tracking her movements. She's not just planning to kill you and take back the throne. She's planning something much worse. A ritual that will bind your power to hers, making her immortal and unstoppable. Ice slid down Arya's spine. When? The next full moon. 3 days from now. Celine's eyes met hers. Which means we have 72 hours to find her, stop the ritual, save your mate, and prevent the kingdom from falling into eternal darkness. No pressure, Arya muttered. A knock at the door interrupted them. One of the guards entered, bowing quickly. Your Majesty, we found more evidence. The prince has been meeting someone in the Widow's Tower for months. There's correspondence, plans, everything. The Widow's Tower. An abandoned section of the palace that overlooked the catacombs. Of course. Arya stood, feeling the weight of her new crown, metaphorical for now, but soon to be literal if she couldn't save Lucian. Show me. The evidence in the Widow's Tower was damning. Maps of the palace with guard rotations marked. Detailed notes on the Moon's Bane poison and how to deploy it. And letters, so many letters, between Daemon and his mother, planning Lucian's downfall with meticulous care. But it was the final letter that made Arya's hands shake. My son. Your father was weak. Lucian was a fool who couldn't see the threat she posed. But you are my true heir. When this is done, when the false queen is destroyed and her power bound to mine, I will make you the most powerful alpha in history. Together, we will rule a kingdom built on strength, not sentiment. Remember, you are not Silvercrest. You are Nightshade. Act accordingly. With maternal affection, M. Arya looked at Celine. She knew all along. About Daemon's real father. She used it to manipulate him. Morgana uses everyone. It's her greatest talent. Celine moved to the window, looking out over the darkening kingdom. The question is, where is she now? As if in answer, Arya felt something pulse through their bond, Lucian's bond, weakening by the hour. She gasped and clutched the desk for support. The poison's accelerating, she whispered. We're running out of time. Celine turned, her expression grave. Then we'd better move fast. Because Morgana's not just hiding anymore. She's ready to make her final move. And when she does... Lightning split the sky outside, followed by thunder that shook the palace foundations. She's coming, Arya breathed. And in the healing chambers below, Lucian's heart stuttered as the poison crept closer to his heart. If you are enjoying this video, do well to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Chapter 7. The storm intensified as night fell, thunder rolling across the kingdom like drums of war. Arya stood in the war room, a chamber she'd never entered before today, surrounded by maps, reports, and the grim faces of the few advisors she thought she could trust. Celine stood beside her, having shed her noble lady persona entirely. She wore practical leather now, twin daggers at her hips, her green eyes sharp and calculating as she studied the palace schematics. Morgana will strike during the full moon ritual, Celine said, pointing to the calendar. 3 days. That's when lunar magic is strongest, when the veil between past and present is thinnest. It's the perfect time for her to attempt the binding spell. What exactly does this binding spell do? Arya asked, though part of her, the part that was Seraphina, already knew. The knowledge was there, buried deep, waiting to surface. It will drain your power and merge it with hers. You'll become an empty shell while she gains immortality and the strength of the Silver Wolf bloodline. Celine's expression was grave. But that's not the worst part. The spell requires a sacrifice, the death of someone you love, their life force used as the catalyst. Lucian. Morgana was going to use Lucian's death to power the ritual. Over my dead body, Arya said quietly. That's the alternative, yes. Celine met her eyes. If you die before the ritual, your power dies with you. Which is why Morgana kept you alive all these years, she needed you to fully awaken first. Dead Omegas don't have power worth stealing. A guard burst into the war room, breathing hard. Your Majesty. We found him. Prince Daemon. He's barricaded himself in the eastern tower with a dozen loyalists. Finally. Arya's wolf snarled in anticipation. Prepare a strike team. We take him alive if possible. Your Majesty, perhaps you should remain here, one of the older advisors suggested nervously. Let the guards handle. No. Arya's voice carried absolute authority. He tried to kill my mate. He's conspiring with a dark witch to destroy this kingdom. I'm handling this personally. She swept from the war room, Celine at her side. As they moved through the corridors, Celine spoke quietly. You're getting stronger. More confident. The memories are surfacing, aren't they? Yes. Arya didn't see the point in denying it. I remember fragments. Seraphina's coronation. The feel of the throne beneath her. The way nobles looked at her, fear and respect mixed together. She glanced at Celine. I remember being powerful. Being feared. And I remember the betrayal. The mate who turned on you? King Aldrich. He loved me once, I think. But power corrupts, and fear corrupts faster. The memories were bitter, even 300 years removed. He convinced himself I was a threat. That my power would eclipse his. So he did what weak men always do, he destroyed what he couldn't control. History has a way of repeating itself, Celine observed. Not this time. Arya's eyes glowed silver in the dim corridor. This time, I'm ready. They reached the eastern tower to find it surrounded by guards. The captain approached and bowed. Your Majesty. The prince refuses to surrender. He's threatening to kill the hostages if we breach. Hostages? Arya's blood went cold. Servants. 3 of them. He's using them as shields. Of course he was. Daemon had always been a coward beneath the princely facade. Arya stepped forward, her voice carrying through the tower entrance. Daemon. This is your queen. Come out and face justice, or I'm coming in. His laugh echoed down the stairs. My queen? You're not my queen. You're an impostor wearing a dead woman's face. A parasite who seduced my father and stole my birthright. Your birthright? Arya's voice hardened. You mean the throne you were never entitled to because you're not even Lucian's son? Silence. Then, you found the letter. I found everything. Every letter from your real father's bloodline. Every communication with Morgana. Every detail of your pathetic attempt to steal a crown that was never yours to take. Arya began climbing the stairs, her guards following. Your Nightshade spawn. The son of a traitor and a murderer. You have no claim to anything. I have every claim. Daemon's voice cracked with rage. I was raised as a prince. Trained as an heir. I've spent my entire life preparing to rule, only to have it stolen by some kitchen omega who spread her legs at the right moment. Arya reached the top of the stairs. Daemon stood in the center of the circular room, a knife pressed to a young servant girl's throat. Two other servants huddled in the corner, bound and terrified. "Let them go," Arya said calmly. "They're innocent." "So was I." Daemon's eyes were wild, desperate. "I didn't ask to be born. Didn't ask for any of this. Mother said, she said if I proved myself, if I eliminated Lucian and cleared the way, she'd make me a true king. Give me power that didn't depend on bloodline. She lied." Arya took a step forward, and Daemon pressed the knife harder. A trickle of blood ran down the girl's neck. "Morgana uses people. She used your real father, she used Lucian, and she's been using you. You're not her son, you're her weapon. And once you're no longer useful, she'll discard you like she's discarded everyone else. You're wrong." But doubt flickered in his eyes. "Am I? Then why hasn't she come for you? Why hasn't she protected her precious son from capture?" Arya's voice softened, became almost gentle. "Because you're expendable, Daemon. You always were." Something broke in his expression. The knife trembled in his hand. "I just wanted." His voice cracked. "I just wanted to matter. You could have mattered. Could have been a good prince, a worthy heir." Arya took another step. "But you chose rage over reason. Chose a mother who never loved you over a father who did. And now, you've lost everything." "Not everything." Daemon's expression hardened again. "I still have this." He moved the knife from the servant's throat, and plunged it toward his own chest. Arya's power exploded outward without conscious thought. Silver energy lashed out, catching Daemon's wrist and freezing him in place. The knife stopped inches from his heart. "No." Arya's voice resonated with ancient authority. "You don't get to escape justice that easily. You don't get to take the coward's way out." She gestured, and the silver energy yanked the knife from his hand. It clattered to the floor. The servant scrambled away as more energy wrapped around Daemon, binding him completely. "Take him to the dungeons," Arya commanded. "Maximum security. No visitors. And search him thoroughly. I want every hidden weapon, every concealed poison, every magical artifact removed." As guards dragged the struggling prince away, Selene approached. "Well handled. You could have killed him." "I wanted to." Arya watched Daemon disappear down the stairs. "But he's worth more alive. Morgana will try to free him or silence him. Either way, he's bait. Using yourself and your mate as bait wasn't enough?" Selene's tone was dry. "I'm done being reactive. Done waiting for Morgana to make the first move." Arya turned to face her. "It's time we went hunting." The interrogation rooms beneath the palace were designed to break even the strongest wills. Daemon sat chained to a chair, silver manacles suppressing any wolf abilities. He looked smaller now, without his princely armor and arrogant swagger. Arya stood in the observation room, watching through a one-way mirror as a professional interrogator worked. Selene had suggested bringing in a Moon Council specialist, someone trained to extract information from dark magic practitioners. "He's holding back," Selene observed. "There's something he's not telling us." "About Morgana's location?" "About everything. The full extent of her plans, her other agents, the ritual details." Selene frowned. "He knows more than he's saying. Fear or loyalty, I can't tell which." Arya made a decision. "Let me talk to him. Alone. That's not protocol. I'm the queen. I make the protocol." Arya was already moving toward the door. She entered the interrogation room, dismissing the specialist with a wave. Daemon looked up as she approached, his amber eyes red-rimmed and haunted. "Come to gloat?" His voice was hoarse. "No." Arya sat across from him. "I came to offer you a choice." He laughed bitterly. "What choice?" Life in a dungeon or execution? Some choice. The choice to matter. To do something that actually makes a difference. She leaned forward. You said you wanted to be significant. Here's your chance. Help me stop Morgana. Tell me everything you know about her plans, her location, her allies. Help me save Lucian, the man who raised you, who loved you as a son even though you weren't his blood. Why would you offer me that? Because despite everything, I don't think you're completely lost. I think part of you knows what you did was wrong. That part of you still has a conscience buried under all that rage and bitterness. Arya's expression softened. And because killing you won't bring back the people your actions hurt. But saving lives with information you provide? That might begin to balance the scales. Daemon stared at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, something crumbled in his expression. The Widow's Tower. That's where we met, but it's not where she's hiding. Where, then? The old keep. 3 miles north of the palace, in the Blackwood Forest. It's been abandoned for a century, but Mother, she's been using it as a base. She has followers there. At least 20 that I know of. He swallowed hard. The ritual is planned for the full moon, at midnight. She needs your blood, Lucian's death, and my life force as the catalyst. Arya felt ice slide down her spine. Your life force? She never planned to make me king. She planned to sacrifice me. His laugh was broken, hollow. Her own son. Or not her son, depending on how you look at it. Just another tool to be used and discarded. I'm sorry, Arya said, and meant it. Don't be. I made my choices. Daemon met her eyes. There's more. Morgana isn't working alone. She has an ally, someone inside the palace. Someone close to you. Who? I don't know. She never told me. But I heard her talking to them through a communication crystal. They've been feeding her information, keeping her updated on your movements, your vulnerabilities. He leaned forward as far as the chains allowed. Whoever it is, they want you dead almost as much as she does. Arya felt the weight of that information settle over her. A traitor in her inner circle. Someone she potentially trusted. Thank you, she said quietly, standing. Arya. Daemon's voice stopped her at the door. For what it's worth. I'm sorry. About the rejection. About all of it. You deserved better. She looked back at him, this broken prince who'd been used and manipulated his entire life. So did you. Celine was waiting in the corridor. Well? He talked. Gave us the location and confirmed our timeline. Arya started walking, her mind racing. But there's a complication. Morgana has an inside agent. I was afraid of that. Celine fell into step beside her. We'll need to keep your plans compartmentalized. Trust no one who doesn't absolutely need to know. They were passing through the portrait gallery when Arya felt it, a pulse of dark magic so strong it made her stumble. She grabbed the wall for support as power washed over her in waves. What is it? Celine had her daggers drawn instantly. She's here. Arya's voice came out strangled. In the palace. Right now. The lights flickered. Went out. Emergency torches flared to life, casting everything in dancing shadows. And in those shadows, something moved. A woman's laughter echoed through the gallery, cruel and familiar and wrong. The portraits on the walls began to bleed, crimson tears running down painted faces. Hello, Serafina. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. Did you miss me? Arya spun, power surging to her hands. Show yourself, Morgana. Oh, I don't think so. Not yet. I'm not quite ready for our reunion. The voice was closer now, circling them. But I wanted you to know, I'm watching. Always watching. And when the moon rises full in 3 days' time, everything you love will burn. I'll stop you, Arya snarled. Will you? You couldn't stop me 300 years ago. What makes you think you can stop me now? The laughter intensified. Tick-tock, Silver Queen. Your mate's heart grows weaker with every passing hour. Will you find me in time? Or will you watch another love die by betrayal? The darkness intensified, became suffocating. Arya felt something brush past her, cold and malevolent, ancient and hungry. Then it was gone. The lights flickered back on. The portrait stopped bleeding. But scrawled on the wall in fresh blood were words that made Arya's blood run cold. 3 days. The old keep. Come alone or everyone dies. Celine stared at the message. It's a trap. Obviously. Arya's hands clenched into fists. You can't possibly be considering. She has Lucian's life in her hands. She's threatening everyone I care about. What choice do I have? You fight smart, not reckless. We gather allies, make a plan, strike with overwhelming force. Celine grabbed her arm. You walk into that keep alone, you die. That's what she wants. Then we don't give her what she wants. Arya pulled away, her mind already working through strategies. We make her think I'm coming alone. But we bring an army. A guard appeared, running full speed, his face pale with panic. Your Majesty. The healing chambers, something's wrong, you need to come now. They ran. The healing chambers were in chaos. Healers surrounded Lucian's bed, their hands glowing with desperate magic. Miriam looked up as Arya burst through the door, and the grief in her eyes sent terror through Arya's heart. The poisons reached his heart, Miriam said quietly. We've tried everything. He's got hours at best. Maybe less. Arya pushed through to Lucian's side. He was barely conscious, his skin gray, black veins spreading across his chest like cracks in porcelain. Arya. His voice was a thread of sound. I'm here. She took his hand, hating how cold it felt. I'm going to fix this. I'm going to save you. No, time. Each word was agony. Promise me, protect, kingdom. You're not dying. Tears streamed down her face. I won't let you. But even as she said it, she felt his life force flickering through their bond. Fading like a candle in the wind. 3 days until the full moon. Until Morgana's ritual. Lucian didn't have 3 days. He had hours. And in the Blackwood forest, in an abandoned keep, a dark queen smiled and prepared for the return of her greatest enemy. Chapter 8. Time was a luxury Arya no longer possessed. Lucian lay dying in the healing chambers, his breaths growing shallower with each passing hour. The healers had done everything they could, their magic exhausted, their potions useless against the ancient poison eating through his veins. Now they simply stood vigil, waiting for the inevitable. Arya refused to wait. She stood in the war room, surrounded by maps of the Blackwood forest and the old keep. Celine had gathered intelligence from Moon Council agents, guard positions, possible entry points, the layout of what they believed was Morgana's ritual chamber. We can have a strike force ready by dawn, Celine said. 50 of our best warriors. If we move fast, we can breach the keep before Lucian dies. Arya's voice was hollow. He doesn't have until dawn. The healers say he has maybe 6 hours left. Then we move now. We don't wait for the full moon, we don't play by Morgana's rules. We hit her hard and fast while she's not expecting it. It was a good plan. A smart plan. But something in Arya's gut, something that was pure Seraphina, told her it wouldn't work. She's expecting that, Arya said quietly. She's been planning this for 25 years. She's accounted for every possibility, every strategy. She looked at Celine. Except one. What? Me giving her exactly what she wants. Celine's eyes widened. No. Absolutely not. If you walk into that ritual chamber, she'll She'll try to drain my power and bind it to herself. I know. Arya's expression was calm, resolved. But what if I let her? Have you lost your mind? Listen to me. Arya moved to the table, her fingers tracing the map. Morgana's ritual requires my willing participation. She needs me to submit, to give up my power voluntarily. That's the only way the binding works. Dark magic always requires consent, even if it's forced. So you're just going to hand yourself over? No. I'm going to make her think I am. A fierce smile crossed Arya's face. And while she's focused on draining my power, I'm going to do something she's not expecting. Which is drain hers instead. Selene stared at her. That's insane. Even if you could reverse a ritual that complex, the backlash would kill us both. I know. Arya's voice softened. But if I do nothing, Lucian dies. Morgana wins. And this kingdom falls into darkness. At least this way, there's a chance. A chance at what? Mutual destruction? A chance at saving everyone I love. Arya met her eyes. 300 years ago, I was betrayed because I trusted the wrong people. Because I was too compassionate, too willing to believe in the good in others. Seraphina's greatest weakness was her mercy. And now? Now I understand. The prophecy says I'll either save the kingdom or destroy it. Everyone assumed that meant physical destruction, fire and blood and ash. Arya's eyes glowed silver. But what if it means destroying the old kingdom? The one built on lies and rigid hierarchies and the belief that omegas are lesser? What if saving the kingdom means burning down everything it was to build something better? Understanding dawned in Selene's expression. You're not just trying to stop Morgana. You're trying to change everything. I'm trying to finish what Seraphina started 300 years ago. Arya straightened, power beginning to radiate from her skin. Will you help me? Selene was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled, a real smile, not the calculating mask she usually wore. To the end. Whatever it takes. Arya stood in Lucian's chambers one last time before leaving. He was unconscious now, the poison having claimed most of his strength. But their bond still pulsed weakly between them, a golden thread growing dimmer by the moment. She took his cold hand in hers. I'm going to save you. I promise. His eyes fluttered open, unfocused and clouded with pain. Arya, don't, it's a trap. I know. She pressed a kiss to his forehead. But it's also an opportunity. Trust me. One more time, trust me. Always. The word was barely a breath. She felt the mate bond strengthen slightly, not physically, but emotionally. His faith in her, his love, flowing through the connection even as death crept closer. Arya closed her eyes and made a choice. She grabbed the bond, that golden thread connecting her soul to his, and pulled. Hard. Lucian gasped as power flooded through the connection. Not healing, not yet, but a transfusion of her strength into his failing body. Just enough to buy him time. Just enough to keep him alive for what came next. Hold on, she whispered. I'm coming back. We're finishing this together. Then she was gone, sweeping from the chambers in a gown of silver that shimmered like starlight. She wore no crown, carried no weapon. Just herself and the power thrumming beneath her skin. Selene waited in the courtyard with horses and a small contingent of guards. You don't have to do this alone, she said quietly. Yes, I do. Morgana needs to believe I'm desperate enough to bargain. Arya swung onto her horse. But I need you to do something for me. When you see the signal, you'll know it when it happens. I need you to bring Lucian to the old keep. No matter what state he's in, you bring him. Arya, if he's that weak. The ritual requires his death as a catalyst. But what if I can reverse that too? What if instead of his death powering her immortality, his life power mine? She looked at Selene. I need him there. It's the only way this works. Celine nodded slowly. I'll bring him. And an army, whether you want it or not. Fair enough. Arya smiled. Thank you. For everything. Don't thank me yet. Save the gratitude for when we're all still alive at the end of this. Arya rode into the Blackwood forest alone, leaving the palace and her guards behind. The trees grew thick here, ancient and gnarled, their branches blocking out most of the moonlight. This was wild land, untamed and dangerous. It felt like coming home. The old keep rose from the forest like a broken tooth, stone walls crumbling, towers collapsed, centuries of neglect evident in every crack and vine-covered surface. But as Arya approached, she felt the magic pulsing from within. Dark magic, yes, but also something else. Something familiar. The gates stood open, waiting. She dismounted and walked through, her footsteps echoing in the empty courtyard. Torches blazed to life as she entered, illuminating a path toward the central keep. At the end of that path, standing in the doorway, was Morgana. She looked exactly as she had in the portraits, raven black hair, emerald eyes, beautiful in a cold, cruel way. But there was something wrong about her, something that made Arya's wolf recoil. Her skin was too pale, her movements too fluid. She wasn't entirely human anymore. Serafina. Morgana's voice was honey over poison. After all these years, we finally meet face to face. Well, face to face again, technically. My name is Arya. Is it? Or are you finally remembering who you really are? Morgana descended the steps, circling Arya like a predator. I've waited so long for this moment. 25 years preparing, planning, ensuring everything was perfect. And here you are, walking right into my grasp. I'm here to make a deal. Morgana laughed. A deal? How delightfully naive. You have nothing I want except your power, which I'm taking regardless. I have Lucian's life. Or what's left of it. Arya met her eyes. Reverse the poison. Save him. And I'll submit to the ritual willingly. No fight, no resistance. You get everything you want. Tempting. But why would I save him when his death is essential to my ritual? Morgana smiled. Unless, oh, how precious. You think you can reverse the spell. You think you can somehow turn my own magic against me. Arya's heart sank. She knows. Did you really think I wouldn't account for that possibility? I've had 300 years to perfect this ritual, Serafina. Every loophole closed, every weakness eliminated. There is no way to reverse what I've set in motion. Morgana's eyes gleamed with malicious triumph. But please, do try. It will be entertaining to watch you fail. She gestured, and the world shifted. Arya found herself in the heart of the keep, a massive circular chamber carved with runes that pulsed with dark energy. In the center stood an altar stained with old blood. And suspended above it, held by chains of pure magic, was Daemon. I told you, he whispered, his voice weak. I told you she planned to sacrifice me. Indeed. Morgana entered the chamber, and the doors slammed shut behind her. Every ritual requires a sacrifice. And what better sacrifice than the son I never wanted? The reminder of my greatest weakness, allowing myself to care for someone, even briefly. You're a monster, Arya said. I'm a survivor. There's a difference. Morgana raised her hands, and the runes blazed brighter. Now, shall we begin? Don't worry, this will only hurt for a moment. Or several moments. Actually, it's going to be excruciating. The ritual began. Dark magic flooded the chamber, wrapping around Arya like chains. She felt it pulling at her power, trying to drain the silver energy that defined her very existence. The pain was immediate and overwhelming, like being torn apart from the inside. But Arya didn't fight it. Not yet. Instead, she did something Serafina had never done. She let go. She stopped trying to control the power, stopped trying to direct it or shape it. She simply let it flow, out of her, through Morgana's ritual, touching every rune, every spell component, every thread of dark magic in the chamber. And then she understood. The ritual wasn't designed to steal power. It was designed to merge it. Morgana didn't want to drain Arya, she wanted to become her. To combine their essences into one immortal, unstoppable being. Which meant the connection went both ways. Arya opened her eyes, and they blazed with pure silver light. My turn. She grabbed hold of the magic flowing between them and pulled. Morgana screamed as the ritual reversed. Dark energy that had sustained her for decades, blood magic that had kept her young and powerful, forbidden spells that had made her nearly immortal, all of it flowed into Arya in a torrent. But Arya didn't just absorb it. She purified it. Silver light erupted from her body, scouring away the corruption, burning through the darkness, transforming death magic into life force. The pain was beyond description, like being unmade and remade at the cellular level. But she endured. Because Lucian was dying. Because Daemon deserved a chance at redemption. Because every Omega who'd ever been told they were lesser deserved to see what one of their own could become. The transformation was complete. Arya stood in the center of the chamber, no longer just Omega or just the reincarnation of an ancient queen. She was something new, the true Silver Queen, combining Seraphina's power with Arya's compassion, Omega empathy with Alpha strength. Morgana collapsed, her body crumbling like ash. Impossible. I planned for everything, every possibility. Except one. Arya's voice resonated with ancient power. You assumed I'd fight like Seraphina did, alone, proud, unwilling to accept help. But I'm not just her. I'm also Arya Blackwood, who learned that true strength comes from connection, not isolation. She looked up as the ceiling exploded inward. Selene dropped through with a team of Moon Council warriors, carrying a barely conscious Lucian between them. I believe you called for backup? Selene said with a grin. Arya rushed to Lucian's side, pressing her hands to his chest. The purified magic flowed through their mate bond, driving out the poison, healing the damage, restoring his strength. His eyes opened, silver blue and clear. Arya? I'm here. You're safe. We're both safe. Morgana let out one final, bitter laugh. You think you've won? You've only delayed the inevitable. Others will come. The old bloodlines won't accept an Omega on the throne. They'll fight you, undermine you, destroy you eventually. Then I'll change the rules. Arya stood, helping Lucian to his feet. I'll build a kingdom where power comes from character, not birth. Where Omegas and Betas and Alphas are judged by their actions, not their rank. She looked down at the crumbling witch. Your world is ending, Morgana. And I'm not sorry. Morgana's body finally gave out, dissolving into ash that scattered in an unfelt wind. The nightmare was over. 1 week later, the coronation took place in the Grand Ceremony Hall, the same hall where Arya had been rejected and humiliated. But everything was different now. She stood before the entire kingdom in a gown of silver and moonlight, a crown of starfire resting on her head. Beside her, Lucian wore his own crown, his hand firmly holding hers. The hall was packed with wolves from every corner of the kingdom, nobles and commoners, alphas and omegas, all gathered to witness history being made. The high priestess raised her hands. I present to you Queen Arya Silvercrest, first of her name, the Silver Queen reborn, Alpha Queen of the United Pax. The crowd erupted in cheers, not the polite applause of nobility, but genuine, enthusiastic celebration from people who'd already heard the stories. The Omega who rose from nothing. The Queen who defeated a dark witch. The woman who changed everything. Arya stepped forward, and silence fell. I was rejected, she said, her voice carrying to every corner of the hall. Broken. Told I was unworthy, too weak, too lowborn to stand beside royalty. She let that sink in. I was also murdered 300 years ago because powerful men feared what I represented, the idea that an Omega could be as strong as any Alpha. She looked out over the crowd, meeting eyes, acknowledging both the nobles who'd scorned her and the servants who'd supported her. Today, we begin something new. I'm abolishing the rigid rank system that's kept this kingdom divided. From this day forward, Omega, Beta, and Alpha are descriptive terms, not hierarchies. Every wolf, regardless of birth, will have the opportunity to rise based on merit and character. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, some supportive, others uncertain. I know change is frightening. I know some of you believe the old ways kept us safe, kept us strong. Arya's expression softened. But I've lived 2 lives now. I've seen what happens when power is concentrated in the hands of those who fear losing it. I've watched good people suffer and die because they were born into the wrong rank. She held up her hand, and silver light danced across her palm. True power isn't given by rank or birth. It's forged through fire, claimed through strength, and proven through choice. I was given the choice to be bitter, to be vengeful, to use my power to crush everyone who hurt me. Instead, I choose to build something better. A kingdom where every wolf matters. Where potential isn't limited by bloodline. Lucian stepped forward, taking her hand. Their bond flared with visible light, silver and gold twining together. I stand beside my queen. My mate. My equal. And I challenge any wolf who has a problem with that to face us both. No one accepted that challenge. The coronation continued with feasts and celebrations that lasted into the night. Arya danced with Lucian, accepted congratulations from nobles who'd previously scorned her, and made plans for the kingdom's future. Late in the evening, she stepped out onto a balcony for air. Selene found her there, 2 glasses of wine in hand. Congratulations, Your Majesty. You actually pulled it off. We pulled it off. Arya accepted the wine. I couldn't have done any of this without you. About that. Selene hesitated. There's something I should tell you. Something the Moon Council discovered during our investigation into your past. What? You and we're related. Half-sisters, actually. From your previous life. Selene smiled at Arya's shocked expression. Seraphina had a younger sister who survived her execution. I'm descended from that bloodline. We're family. Arya stared at her, then laughed, a genuine, delighted sound. Family. After all this time. If you'll have me. Always. Arya pulled her into a hug. When they separated, Arya noticed a young girl watching from the crowd below, an Omega, maybe 10 years old, her eyes filled with wonder as she stared up at the Silver Queen. Arya smiled and descended to the courtyard. She knelt before the girl, who gasped and tried to bow. None of that, Arya said gently. She took the girl's hands. What's your name? Luna, Your Majesty. The girl's voice was barely a whisper. Luna. That's a beautiful name. Arya looked into her eyes. Do you know what I was before I became queen? A kitchen servant, Your Majesty. Like me. Exactly like you. An Omega who everyone said would never amount to anything. Arya squeezed her hands gently. But here I am. And someday, if you work hard and stay true to yourself, you could be standing where I am. Never let anyone tell you that you're less than you are because of your rank. Promise me? Luna nodded, tears streaming down her face. I promise. Arya stood and addressed the crowd that had gathered. This is what we're building. A kingdom where every child, Alpha, Beta, or Omega, can dream of greatness. Where Luna here might become a general, a healer, a council member, or even a queen if that's where her path leads. She extended her hand to Luna. Will you help me build it? The girl took her hand, and silver light flared between them, a promise and a prophecy. The crowd erupted in cheers once more. Late that night, after the celebrations had ended and the palace had finally quieted, Arya stood with Lucian on the highest tower, looking out over their kingdom. Do you think we can really change things? She asked quietly. I think if anyone can, it's you. He wrapped his arms around her from behind. You've already done the impossible. What's reshaping an entire kingdom compared to that? She leaned back against him, feeling their bond pulse with contentment and love. I remember everything now. Both lives. Serafina and Arya. Sometimes I'm not sure where one ends and the other begins. Maybe they're both you. Different aspects of the same soul. He pressed a kiss to her temple. Does it matter? No. Arya smiled. I suppose it doesn't. They stood in comfortable silence, watching moonlight play across the capital. Neither noticed the figure watching from the distant hills. A cloaked shape that stood motionless, eyes glowing red in the darkness. The Silver Queen has risen, the figure whispered, voice neither male nor female, carrying across the wind like a curse. But prophecies always come in pairs. Light and shadow. Silver and blood. The figure's lips curved in a smile that held no warmth. The Blood King is coming. And when he arrives, little queen, your kingdom of hope and dreams will burn. They faded into shadow, leaving only the echo of dark laughter and the promise of storms to come. But in the palace, in each other's arms, Arya and Lucian simply held tight to the peace they'd fought so hard to claim. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Tonight, they'd earned their happiness. The end. Or is it? I know you enjoyed this video. Do well to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Don't forget to drop your thoughts in the comments section below and share this video to family and friends.